Thugong village had been known for its coffin-making craft for over 60 years. It wasn't just a job, it was a tradition passed down through generations. Nearly every household in the village was involved in it. Coffins were stacked all over their yards, sometimes dozens at a time. To outsiders, the sight was unsettling, but to the villagers, it was completely normal. Among them, Mr. Thuong's workshop was the largest. He didn't just make coffins, he also crafted furniture, beds, wardrobes, dressing tables, even altars. Still, he was a superstitious man. He believed strongly in spiritual taboos, so he kept things separate. One workshop was dedicated to coffins and altarpieces, while the other handled everyday furniture. His craftsmanship was considered the best in the village. What most people didn't know was that, years ago, he had been a portrait artist, but not for the living. He drew portraits of the dead. Back then, when cameras weren't common, families would come to him after losing a loved one, asking him to recreate their face from memory. His drawings were so lifelike that people often felt as if the deceased were still somehow present. But as photography became more accessible, that line of work slowly disappeared. Mr. Thuong eventually put down his pencil and fully devoted himself to woodworking. Until one day, 4 customers arrived at his workshop, 2 young couples. Among them were Hai and his close friend's son. After browsing through the furniture, Hai asked for a custom-made bed based on his own design. Mr. Thuong studied the blueprint carefully, then nodded. 1 month, he said. It'll be ready. If Hai wanted it sooner, he could pay extra, but Hai didn't mind waiting. Exactly 1 month later, Hai returned. The bed was finished. It was made from solid ironwood, left in its natural color and coated with a thin layer of glossy varnish. The headboard was intricately carved, every detail sharp, precise, flawless. It was expensive, but for Hai, that wasn't an issue. The bed was delivered to his house and placed in the bedroom, instantly elevating the entire space. It looked elegant, luxurious, perfect. Everything was normal. Until one weekend. Hai was about to take his wife and child out when he noticed an elderly woman standing quietly at the gate. It was his mother. She had come from the countryside, carrying bags full of homemade food and gifts. Her clothes were worn, her face marked by years of hardship. Hai's wife immediately ran out to greet her warmly, but Hai didn't move. He didn't say a word, didn't even greet her. The atmosphere turned awkward. After a brief visit, Hai's wife decided to take his mother back to the countryside herself. She couldn't bear to see the older woman feeling unwelcome. When they arrived, she finally saw how her mother-in-law had been living. The house was old. The walls were cracked and damp. The furniture was worn down, barely usable. The woman had been living alone, in quiet hardship. Moved by what she saw, Hai's wife decided to renovate the house. She hired workers, bought new furniture, anything to make life easier for the old woman. Meanwhile, back in the city, that night, Hai was home alone. He lay on his new bed, scrolling through his phone like usual, but something felt off. A strange sense of unease crept into his chest. After a while, he reached out and touched the headboard. The moment his fingers made contact, he froze. It felt cold and slightly sticky. Frowning, he lifted his hand and brought it closer to his nose. A faint smell, metallic, like blood. His heartbeat quickened. Something wasn't right. Slowly, he leaned over and looked under the bed. There, in the darkness, was a puddle. A strange liquid, yellowish, mixed with dark red, thick, unnatural. His breathing became shallow. But that wasn't the worst part. When he looked back at the headboard, the carved patterns were changing, twisting, shifting, until they formed a face, a woman's face, her eyes hollow, their mouths slightly open, as if trying to speak. Hai screamed, stumbling backward, his entire body shaking. He rushed out of the room, calling for the housemaid. But when they came back to check, everything was gone. No puddle, no face, nothing. The bed looked exactly the same as before. Perfect, harmless. The housemaid stared at him, confused. But Hai couldn't calm down anymore.